In most nurseries across the Western world, the sound of a crying baby is the expected baseline of early parenthood, an escalating cycle of distress that caregivers are taught to manage. To understand the limits of that distress, researchers at the University of Warwick tracked the crying habits of nearly 9,000 infants across several different countries. This chart displays a significant geographical gap in the data. While 34% of Canadian infants experienced colic in the first 6 weeks, that number dropped to only 2. It describes a deep expectation within the infant of being understood without having to ask. Western models often rely on a reactive structure, where a baby cries to signal a need, and the parent responds. This requires the infant to endure distress to change their environment. To begin closing that gap, Japanese mothers practice a pre-cry scan. Every morning, spend 60 seconds simply observing your baby before you begin feeding or playing. You are looking for microsignals, the specific stillness that precedes overwhelm, a subtle change in breathing, or a slight tension in the shoulders that signals hunger long before the child has to shout. Mastering amai means becoming fluent in a wordless language. By identifying these signals early, parents can meet a need before it escalates into a full stress response. This level of responsiveness is supported by intense proximity. In the first year, Japanese mothers average only 2 hours a week away from their infants, utilizing constant carrying and co-sleeping to stay physically connected. This proximity enables mimamoru, the practice of watching and protecting. It is a cultural habit of continuous, hyper-focused observation. Neurologically, when a caregiver intercepts a need before the baby is forced to cry, it prevents a spike in cortisol, the primary stress hormone. This high level of predictability teaches the infant's brain that the world is a responsive and safe environment. By minimizing early distress, parents lay the groundwork for what psychologists call secure attachment. This early bond provides the stability necessary for developing more complex self-regulation and emotional control as the child grows. Beyond observation, there is a specific physiological tool used to soothe infants. Scientists at the Riken Brain Science Institute attached heart rate monitors to crying babies to measure their reaction to different movements. Common techniques like rocking in a chair, sitting still, or pushing a stroller showed little to no effect on the infant's physiological stress levels. The study found one effective condition: 5 minutes of smooth, forward walking. As seen here, heart rate and cortisol plummet immediately. This evolutionary reflex registers forward motion as being carried to safety, triggering a biological cascade that returns the body to a secure state. This suggests that effective soothing isn't about new technology, but about understanding how physical movement impacts the infant's biology. The level of proximity required by this system is often impossible for Western families, especially for single parents or those who must return to work shortly after birth. There are also measurable developmental trade-offs. Children raised in this model often develop self-recognition and physical independence slightly later than Western children. Both Western and Japanese models produce healthy adults. They simply prioritize different developmental milestones in the early months. You don't need to adopt the Japanese system in its entirety to see a change. You can integrate its core principles into whatever parenting framework you already have. The final shift is focusing on gap reduction. Ask yourself, what does the baby need right now, before they have to tell me? Reducing the time it takes to respond to early signals by 30 seconds shifts your role. You become a reader of your child's needs, rather than a responder to their cries. In this context, crying is viewed as a result of the gap between a need and its response growing too wide for the baby's nervous system to manage. By combining amai and mimamoru, watching and anticipating, you reduce that gap before the cry can take hold. This approach shows that effective care is found in the daily habit of observation. It is the practice of knowing a child well enough that they rarely have to shout to be understood.